Right now on KCCI 8 News Close Up, the condition of the state. The big issues the governor would like to make a priority this 2021 session. This morning, we take a deeper look at education funding, mental health, and racial profiling. Close Up starts right now.
This is Iowa's news leader. This is KCCI 8 News Close Up.
Good morning and thank you for joining us. I'm Scott Carpenter. It was a busy week of politics in Iowa. The State House kicked off its 2021 session, plus Governor Reynolds gave her condition of the state address. The governor called on the legislature to focus on a number of issues: $450 million for rural broadband by 2025, more than $28 million to address child care challenges. She also asked for $30 million over 2 years for mental health and pledged to continue to work on policing reform. But one of her big requests was to have lawmakers immediately pass a bill requiring Iowa schools to offer 100% in-person learning option. Take a listen.
I'm asking the legislature to immediately send a bill to my desk that gives parents the choice to send their children back to school full-time. We can't wait any longer, and our kids can't wait any longer.
Educators have some concerns about the governor's proposal. KCCI's chief political reporter Cynthia Fodor spoke with Melissa Peterson, a lobbyist for the Iowa State Education Association.
Hey, Melissa, you're the Education Association's response to what you're hearing.
I can tell you without a doubt there is no one who would rather be back in the classroom 100% full-time with their students than our education professionals. They want to be teaching under quote-unquote normal circumstances. For us, the devil is going to be in the details of that piece of legislation, because it's very important that we make sure, if we are required to return 100% in person across the state, that the safety measures are in place to protect our education professionals and our students.
And would that be something beyond mask wearing and social distancing?
Sure, but I will say we still believe we have approximately 20% of our school districts that do not have a mask mandate. And that for us is very, very challenging. We know from all of the science, all of the health professionals we've listened to over the last, 10, 11 months now, that masks are key to decreasing the amount of transmission. And I was actually just looking at the KCCI website this morning, and we are now up to 58 counties with a positivity rate of over 15%. And so now is not the time for us to back off any of those health and safety measures. And so, yes, we need mask mandates. We also need increased cleaning and hygiene practices within our school buildings. We need opportunities to have proper ventilation and appropriate social distancing. And in some of our districts, this is really challenging to do given the number of students that could potentially be required to be back in a classroom.
So if there were legislation, which it sounds like they're moving in that direction, would you like to see it include all of those things, or would you prefer not for it to even to be made law and leave it to local control?
Well, so a few things. We do look forward as the Iowa State Education Association of working in a bipartisan fashion as this legislative session begins to make sure that our education professionals have a voice in the conversation. They are the ones that are on the front lines. They're the essential workers providing these services in our classrooms. And so we want to make sure that they are a part of the conversation so that they have the confidence to feel safe and healthy in their teaching and in the students' learning environment. I think it's also really important for us to recognize that it would be to the detriment of this state if whatever this piece of legislation looked like was a one-size-fits-all policy. We have advocated from the beginning that local school districts work in concert with their county health departments to do what is best for those local communities. And so to back away from that now would be very problematic. We know that we have actually the lion's share of our school districts are working in person. They're providing in-person instruction. But those that aren't, for the most part, have really good reason not to, because they're very concerned about the increase in positivity and the opportunity for transmission.
So there are districts that do offer 100% in person if that's what a parent wants, right?
Yep. There are many school districts districts, actually, the majority of school districts right now, we have 327 school districts, and we believe 75% of them are offering, if not 100%, in-person instruction and in-person instruction opportunity. But again, many parents, for example, in the Des Moines School District, I believe 40% of the parents have chosen to continue with the 100% virtual option. So if there's a virtual option, some parents are opting for that, but many are still sending their children in person for that instruction. Our concern is if we force everyone back, again, using one mandate to cover the entire state without paying attention to the local circumstances, is what happens when you get an intersection of a requirement for 100% in-person instruction and your district still doesn't have a mask mandate. And appropriate safety and health conditions are not, protocols are not being taken or not being met. That's where we're very nervous. We could see further transmission in spread of this disease. And I would just take a moment to point out that in the last week alone, we've lost another 2 educators that we are aware of to this terrible virus.
And I don't remember the exact numbers, but I know back in November, there were quite a few, like a couple of dozen of districts that had asked for waivers.
Yep. I will say, unfortunately, the waivers that I am aware of that have most recently been requested, particularly in Des Moines and also the Iowa City School District, have been denied.
Oh, recently they have?
They have been. And what we find a little challenging about that is one of the metrics that the governor and the Department of Education have put into place for you to successfully receive a waiver is that your community is over 15% positivity. And we know statewide, I believe the positivity rate today is 14.6%. And again, as I mentioned before, we know that we have 58 counties with above 15% positivity rates. And so again, we need to get back into our classrooms under normal circumstances as quickly as possible. But in the long term, if we do not do this from a very safe and healthy perspective, we will be setting ourselves further back.
Up next, mental health funding. Why advocates say $30 million isn't enough to help the state's struggling system.
If you want the job done right the first time,
Welcome back to KCCI 8 News Close Up. During her Condition of the State address, Governor Reynolds wants to see more money put towards Iowa's mental health programs.
In the last 3 years, we've reformed our mental health system, and we're continuing to make it better. I'm proposing to increase mental health funding by $15 million this year and another $15 million next to fully fund the reform efforts.
Mental health advocates say the funding is needed, but it doesn't cover all the costs. KCCI's Cynthia Fodor spoke with the National Alliance of Mental Illness Iowa's Executive Director, Peggy Huppert, about why mental health care in Iowa is at a crisis point.
Well, Peggy, this year has been challenging to say the least for those working in mental health, and we're hearing that more people are suffering from depression and anxiety in general due to the pandemic. What are you seeing in terms of how Iowans are coping?
Well, what we know is that to have to deal with a mental health challenge in any given year. And in 2020, it was 1 in 4. So that was significant. But there was also a study that came out in August that showed that young people in particular have been affected by everything that's happening, which makes sense because they don't have the experience, the life experience, or sometimes the support to be able to deal with things that they haven't seen or known before. And what we found is that actually it was 25% of that age group under the age of 25 had considered suicide seriously during the 3 months preceding the study. So we've seen a 75% increase in calls to our national warm line, and they're all related to anxiety and depression.
Wow, those numbers are staggering. Well, the governor seems to be focused on this and her condition of the state. She said she will propose funding another $15 million this year and another $15 million next year. What will that go toward and how will it help?
Well, that's welcome news. We have passed some significant legislation in Iowa for policy. We have required that new services come online. For example, access centers for people in crisis, intensive residential homes for people who need ongoing help, ACT teams, assertive community treatment for community-based care for people with complex needs. And then, of course, there's the children's system, which, we now technically have one, but we don't really. It hasn't really been implemented because it was given to the regions to do, the mental health and disability 14 regions, but with no dedicated funding. So we have a real problem with requiring services to be implemented at the local level, but not having funding follow that. And a lot of the regions, such as Polk County, they have been frozen at the same level in what they can levy for this for the last 5 years. So there's a crisis brewing on how to fund the system. The $15 million is welcome, but the totality of what is required is closer to $140 million total, and underlying problems with funding have to be fixed.
So it's clearly not enough. She mentioned that the regions would be working on innovative solutions to address the unique needs of children. Is this enough to even get that off the ground?
Well, the problem, Cynthia, is that the regions themselves they don't actually do the programs. They contract with private providers to do programs. And you can't make private providers offer programs. They're going to make decisions on whether, especially to start brand new ones, but even to keep going with services, they're going to make that decision based on how much they're being paid to do it. And unfortunately, a lot of the Medicaid rates are not adequate. They're losing money on them. For ACT teams, they're losing money on them. And so the problem that we've seen is the regions are attempting to get providers lined up and attempting to get these services, but providers are skittish about doing it because they're not sure the funding is going to be there in the future. So I'm glad that the governor recognizes that, and she talked about the need for more money next year. But the problem is the base of the funding is still tied to this property tax levy, which is problematic. We need to fix that.
Cynthia wraps up her conversation on mental health funding after the break.
Want to watch more awe-inspiring shows?
Welcome back to Close Up. The governor is proposing $30 million for mental health care over 2 years, but advocates say a more stable source of funding is needed. KCCI's Cynthia Fodor wraps up her conversation with NAMI's Iowa's Peggy Hupper.
And will NAMI and others be fighting this session to fix that?
Well, we will. I'm sure it's going to be a bit of an uphill battle. Last year, the governor had her Invest in Iowa plan, which would have raised the sales tax by a penny, and a substantial portion of that would have gone toward mental health funding. And I know that has its own problems and its own issues, because a lot of people are opposed to sales tax increase because it's considered regressive. But we need new state money in this system. And in exchange, she was proposing that the property tax levy be reduced significantly, which we are okay with. But something fundamental has to change and has to happen. Unfortunately, it's just been kicked down the road. And I'm afraid that that is what might happen again this year.
Yes, because she says she's dropping that proposal this year.
Now, Senator Jack Whitver has said repeatedly that he favors the state just taking over the funding completely and taking it off the property tax. That would mean a substantial investment on the part of the state. And I'm not sure where that's going to come from. So, I'm sure that the governor has put forward her plan. I'm sure we're going to be seeing plans from the Senate Republicans and possibly the House Republicans and the Democratic caucus as well. So it'll be interesting to see what they come up with and what they propose. As I said, additional funding is welcome, but it doesn't fix the underlying problem.
Just wanted your take, Peggy, also on the governor's emphasis again on children and kids not being in school, having a major impact on their mental health.
Well, that has been a concern for us, and we have raised it, especially children with significant special needs, those who are on an IEP, individualized learning plan. Some of these kids have a one-on-one attendant when they are in school. And then they have a lot of additional services that are provided before and after school, therapy and recreation and a lot of other things. Most of those have gone away in the wake of the pandemic. And that has made life very difficult for these families. In some cases, it has led to the institutionalization of kids who previously were in school and receiving these other services. And that's a shame. So we've been trying to bring attention to that. And it varies so much from school district to school district, right? So that makes it a little bit more challenging because some districts are managing to make it work and others have not been able to. But we are really concerned for kids' abilities to learn, for parents' abilities to cope with kids being home all the time, especially with kids who need extra help. Sitting in front of a screen is not an effective way to learn for a lot of these kids. So they are falling behind and they're really struggling.
Next on Close Up, policing the police, the legislation that aims to protect law enforcement while also pushing for reform.
We're all here in the middle of something new.
Welcome back to Close Up. Governor Reynolds wants to see legislation that protects law enforcement, but also continues the push towards racial justice. KCCI's Cynthia Fodor spoke with State Representative Ruth Ann Gaines about what's being discussed at the State House.
Let's talk about the governor and her condition of the state. Said she's introducing a bill that she said will continue marching to justice. What are you hoping to see in this?
Well, I do know that a lot of research has been done in the last year, at least, since we've been talking a lot more about racial justice. And so with the racial profiling bill, I hope there are some restrictions and punishment. Like, they've been doing a lot of research on how many stops there are, what the stops are for, and the ethnicity of the people who are being stopped. So with that information, I hope the bill will indicate that racial profiling is happening in Iowa, and these are the penalties in regards to this bill. The governor hasn't really written the bill yet, so I don't know what is actually in it, but racial profiling is a reality. She knows it's a reality, and so I'm hoping that there are some strong penalties in regards to those officers who do stop just on the basis of race and ethnicity.
Do you think there's support at the State House to ban racial profiling?
There is, and it's grown over, I'd say, the last 10 years. Every year, the NAACP has its own legislative agenda, and one of the bills has been racial profiling. And a couple of years ago, it almost passed the Senate. It only needed one more vote, and it didn't pass. But since last year, more legislators are on board for criminal reform. So I do think, and with the governor too, backing it being her bill, I do think that we will have some weight in passing it. I'm hopeful.
And last year, a bipartisan group did come together, and I think within, was it one day?
Yes.
Criminal justice reform, the More Perfect Union Act. And what changes did that make?
Well, there was regard to chokeholds. That's the main thing about the bill, is that no more chokeholds. They're totally banned, and police officers will have to be be reported if they use excessive force. And so those are two things that we never had in police reform.
And also the Attorney General could investigate police misconduct.
Right.
And what did that show us, Ruth Ann, in terms of that both parties can work together when in a short amount of time to get something done when they put their minds to it?
I do think that often when we are working on legislation, we are working in a partisan way, even though we're saying we're bipartisan. But when something is urgent, as this bill was last summer after the death of George Floyd and protests here in the state, I think human nature took over. And when human nature, what is right, what is wrong, surpasses the political party, people can come together and work effectively. It was a situation where I don't care what party you are, this is what's right for the people of Iowa. And I think that's the case. We all saw what happened to George Floyd, and nobody could deny that that was murder. So it didn't matter whether you were a Democrat or a Republican, you came together to work fast. And that was the Black Caucus, by the way, working with the governor and other legislators to get that done. And at that time, the governor did say that she was going to continue working on criminal justice reform. So I think she is trying to keep her word in that regard. I also heard her say that she was going to propose in this racial profiling bill that our police officers would be respected and that we would have no defund the police here in the state of Iowa. And I think that's also good because we need our police. We need this protection. We just need reform in terms of training, de-escalation, diversity. We need our officers on board, but we need the police.
Thank you for joining us for KCCI 8 News Close Up. We'll see you back here next Sunday.